Caitlin Clark, WNBA Rookie of the Month, packing arenas while averaging 17 and 6 assists. That's not enough to make the Olympic roster. Caitlin gets snubbed.
Caitlin Clark, the #1 pick in April's WNBA draft, who had an up-and-down start to her WNBA career, did not make the Olympic team.
Team USA just got exposed in the biggest way possible. Christine Brennan's new book dropped some serious bombshells about how Caitlin Clark got screwed out of her Olympic spot, and guess who was behind it all? Diana Taurasi got handed a roster spot like it was a retirement gift while Clark got left home. The conspiracy theorists were right all along. Do you think Diana Taurasi deserved that Olympic spot over Caitlin Clark, or was this just another case of the old guard protecting their own?
That there was a two-way situation going on involving the Olympics and why Caitlin Clark did not make it and why Diana Taurasi did. Now, in case you don't remember, Diana Taurasi was a complete train wreck in the Olympics last year. Non-factor, including at least one DNP, did not play. And I had a theory because Taurasi is now, she got the 6th gold medal. And I had a theory that if they kept Caitlin Clark off the team and put Taurasi on, then because of age, it would prevent Caitlin Clark from ever matching or breaking Diana Taurasi's record. And I think Cheryl Reeve and the committee, my opinion, did that shit on purpose.
Well, look who was right all along. All those people calling conspiracy theories when folks said Caitlin Clark got robbed of her Olympic spot can sit down and shut up now. Christine Brennan's book just confirmed what a lot of us already knew. Diana Taurasi got handed that roster spot, like it was some kind of farewell party favor. Let's break this down because the details are absolutely wild. According to Brennan's reporting, Diana Taurasi was basically guaranteed a spot on the team before anyone even looked at performance or current ability. They called it a farewell present for her 6th gold medal attempt. A farewell present. Like this is some corporate retirement party where they give you a gold watch and send you on your way.
Caitlin Clark, who is not one of the top 12 to 15 WNBA players, did not make the Olympic team. But Christian Laettner wasn't one of the top 100 players in the NBA, and he made an Olympic team. Olympic basketball team, men's and women's, has always been subjective and very political at the end of the roster. Isaiah Thomas didn't make it. Why? Michael Jordan didn't like him. The WNBA Finals had 700,000 viewers. The draft that included Caitlin Clark had 3 times as many. Life, whether it's a relationship, business, sports, life gives you so few big waves. When they do, grab your surfboard. Women's basketball feels like it's suffering from spite or historically low self-esteem, where they want to prove that they know more than you do. It's an opportunity wasted.
Think about how ridiculous that is for a second. You've got 12 roster spots available for the Olympics, the biggest stage in basketball, and you're just going to give one away as a thank you gift? That means 11 spots were actually competitive, not 12. 11 spots for the best players in the world because one was reserved for someone based on what they did years ago, not what they were doing right then. And what was Diana Taurasi doing at that time? Let me refresh your memory. She was averaging single digits in scoring, shooting poorly, and looked like she was playing in slow motion compared to everyone else. During the actual Olympics, she barely played meaningful minutes and had at least 1 DNP, did not play. A complete non-factor when the games mattered most. The fact that everyone in the basketball world could see this coming makes it even more insulting. Taurasi's decline wasn't some secret. It was obvious to anyone watching WNBA games. Her legs were gone, her shot was inconsistent, and she couldn't keep up with the pace of the modern game. But apparently none of that mattered because the decision had already been made in some back room. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark was putting up 16.8 points, 5.3 rebounds, and 6.3 assists per game in her first WNBA season. She was literally breaking rookie records left and right and bringing more attention to women's basketball than it had seen in decades. But apparently none of that mattered because Diana had already been promised her spot.
I was in high school when I made the Olympic team in 1976. Billy Moore said, I picked you for the future of the game. If they had picked Caitlin Clark, even though she doesn't have a lot of experience, even though she missed some of the training camps, pick her, let her gain that experience, and she's going to be the one in 3, 4, 5 years who's going to be one of the leaders of that USA team. So give her that experience. She's going to put more eyeballs than ever before seen at an Olympics on women's basketball, on women's sports. The crowds are going to be bigger. It was a no-brainer, in my opinion, and the selection committee can do what they want, but I think you picked that 12th spot for the future.
The numbers don't lie, and they make this decision look even worse in hindsight. Clark was outperforming Taurasi in every meaningful statistical category while also being the most marketable player in women's basketball. From a pure basketball standpoint, there was no comparison. From a business standpoint, there was no comparison. But from a politics standpoint, Taurasi had the connections. The book reveals that USA Basketball was worried about how Clark's fans would react if she got limited playing time during the Olympics. They were apparently concerned about critical posts on social media and didn't want to deal with people's reactions. So let me get this straight. They kept the most popular player in women's basketball off the team because they were scared of mean tweets? That's the most unserious approach to team building you could possibly imagine. You're putting together a roster to win gold medals at the Olympics, and you're worried about Facebook comments? That's like choosing your starting lineup based on who has the nicest parents in the stands. The irony is that their fear of social media backlash guaranteed massive social media backlash. The decision to leave Clark off the team generated way more negative attention than including her and giving her limited minutes ever would have. They were so concerned about avoiding criticism that they made the most criticized decision possible. But here's the really cynical part that nobody's talking about. Diana Taurasi now has 6 Olympic gold medals, which is a record that's going to be incredibly hard to break. For Caitlin Clark to match that record, she'd have to make every Olympics team for the next 20 plus years and win gold every single time. The math is basically impossible, unless she plays until she's in her mid-40s. So by keeping Clark off that 2024 team and giving Taurasi her 6th gold, they essentially guaranteed that record would never be touched. That's some serious, long-term gatekeeping right there. They protected Taurasi's legacy at the expense of giving the best current players a chance to compete. The calculated nature of this decision is what makes it so infuriating. This wasn't some split-second judgment call or a close decision between equally qualified players. This was a deliberate choice to prioritize legacy protection over current performance. They looked at the future of women's basketball and decided to handicap it to protect the past.
I'm going to be rooting them on to win gold.
Caitlin Clark won't be going to the Olympics in Paris this summer. The WNBA rookie was left off the Team USA roster. 3 sources say her omission was partly over concerns about how her fans would react when she would likely be limited getting playing time. Caitlin, through it all, says she's good. She's going to be working towards the next Olympic team.
Honestly, no disappointment. I think it just gives you something to work for. That's a dream. Hopefully one day I can be there, and I think it's just a little more motivation. You remember that, and hopefully in 4 years, when 4 years comes back around, I can be there.
Now, Caitlin could be picked as an alternate. The roster includes Brittany Griner, Brianna Stewart, Diana Taurasi. The Team USA women's national team has won gold at 7 straight Olympic Games dating back to 1996.
The whole situation reeks of the old guard protecting their own. This is the same mentality that has held women's basketball back for years. Making decisions based on politics and feelings instead of merit and performance. They care more about giving their friends nice send-offs than actually putting the best product on the court. And let's be honest about what Diana Taurasi brought to that Olympics team. She was a shell of her former self, couldn't keep up with the pace of the modern game, and took up a roster spot that could have gone to someone who might actually contribute. But because she was connected to the right people and had the right relationships, she got her farewell tour. The whole thing becomes even more ridiculous when you consider that Clark had already proven she could handle the pressure of big games. She'd been doing it in college for years, breaking viewership records and playing in front of hostile crowds. The idea that she couldn't handle the Olympics pressure is laughable. Clark's college career was literally built on performing in high-pressure situations. She thrived in March Madness, broke records in championship games, and consistently delivered when the lights were brightest. But somehow, the selection committee thought she couldn't handle the Olympics environment that Diana Taurasi was struggling with in regular season games. But apparently, the selection committee thought it was better to take someone who was guaranteed to contribute nothing rather than risk having to manage social media backlash. That's the kind of thinking that keeps organizations mediocre. They're more worried about perception than performance. The irony is that keeping Clark off the team probably generated way more negative attention than including her ever would have. The decision was widely criticized at the time, and now with these revelations, it looks even worse. They were so concerned about avoiding criticism that they made a decision that guaranteed massive criticism. Clark's response to getting snubbed was pure class, by the way. She didn't complain publicly, didn't throw anyone under the bus, and just used it as motivation to get better. While Diana Taurasi was collecting her participation trophy in Paris, Clark was back home working on her game and preparing for what turned out to be an incredible second half of her rookie season. The professionalism Clark showed in handling this snub makes the selection committee's decision look even worse. Here's a player who took rejection gracefully and used it as fuel to improve. While they were worried about her fans being mean on social media, they completely misread both the player and the situation. And that's another thing. Clark probably benefited from getting that rest during the Olympics break. She came back refreshed and went on an absolute tear to finish the season. But that doesn't make the decision right. You don't keep the best players off the team because you think they need a vacation. The whole selection process exposed how the women's basketball establishment really operates. It's not about merit or current ability. It's about relationships and politics. They'd rather reward past performance than give opportunities to current stars. That's exactly the kind of thinking that has held the sport back for decades. This isn't just about one roster decision. It's about a pattern of behavior that prioritizes insider connections over competitive excellence. The same people making these decisions have been making them for years, and they're more interested in maintaining the status quo than pushing the sport forward. Diana Taurasi's 6th gold medal is basically meaningless now that we know how she got it. It wasn't earned through competition or current ability. It was gifted to her by a committee that cared more about giving her a nice send-off than putting together the best possible team. The whole situation shows why women's basketball has struggled to maintain relevance over the years. When you make decisions based on politics instead of performance, you end up with inferior products. The Olympics team probably would have been better with Clark and worse with Taurasi, but that didn't matter to the people making decisions. What's really frustrating is that this kind of thing happens all the time in women's sports, but usually we don't get the behind-the-scenes details. This time, we have actual reporting that confirms what many people suspected. The fix was in from the beginning. The selection committee's excuse about being worried about social media reaction is particularly pathetic. These are supposed to be serious people making important decisions about representing the country at the Olympics, and they're concerned about Instagram comments? That's not leadership, that's cowardice. The fact that they admitted to being influenced by potential social media reactions shows how unqualified they are to make these decisions. Professional sports organizations don't base roster decisions on Twitter sentiment. They base them on performance, potential, and what gives them the best chance to win. Clark's popularity and fan engagement should have been seen as an asset, not a liability. Having the most recognizable player in women's basketball on your Olympics team would have generated massive interest and viewership. Instead, they chose to alienate those fans and generate negative publicity. The whole thing reeks of jealousy and resentment from the old guard. They couldn't stand that this young player was getting more attention than they ever did, so they found a way to keep her off the biggest stage. It's petty and small-minded, exactly what you'd expect from people who are more concerned with protecting their own legacies than growing the sport. Diana Taurasi's involvement in this whole situation makes it even worse. She had to know she didn't deserve that spot based on current performance, but instead of stepping aside and doing what was best for the team and the sport, she took her farewell gift and cashed it in. The fact that Taurasi barely played meaningful minutes during the Olympics just confirms how ridiculous the whole situation was. They kept a player who could have actually contributed off the team to make room for someone who ended up being a non-factor. That's organizational malpractice. This whole controversy highlights the fundamental problems with how women's basketball is run. Too many decisions are made based on personal relationships and politics rather than merit and performance. Until that changes, the sport will continue to struggle with credibility issues. The Olympics snub probably motivated Clark more than anything else could have. She came back from that break and showed exactly what the selection committee missed out on. Her performance in the second half of the season was historically good, and it all started with the chip on her shoulder from getting left off that team. But motivation aside, this was still a massive mistake by USA Basketball. They had a chance to include the most popular and talented young player in the sport, and they chose to go with sentiment instead of sense. That's not how you build winning programs. The revelation that this was all planned from the beginning makes it even more infuriating. This wasn't a close decision where they agonized over the final spot. Diana Taurasi was getting on that team no matter what, and everyone else was competing for the remaining spots. That's not fair competition. That's rigged from the start. What makes this whole situation even more ridiculous is that women's basketball desperately needs young stars like Clark to carry the sport forward. Instead of embracing that and giving her the biggest possible platform, they chose to protect the feelings of aging veterans who were clearly past their prime. The Olympics controversy also exposed the insular nature of women's basketball leadership. These are the same people making the same decisions over and over again, and they're more interested in taking care of their friends than doing what's best for the sport. Clark's exclusion from that Olympics team will go down as one of the biggest mistakes in women's basketball history. They had a chance to showcase the sport's brightest star on the biggest stage, and they blew it because they were more concerned with giving Diana Taurasi a nice send-off. The whole thing is a perfect example of how not to run a sports organization. When you prioritize politics over performance, sentiment over skill, and relationships over results, you end up making decisions that hurt everyone involved. USA Basketball failed the sport, failed the fans, and failed Caitlin Clark with this decision. So there you have it. The Olympics conspiracy was real all along. Diana Taurasi got handed a roster spot as a retirement gift, while Caitlin Clark got left home despite being the better player. It's exactly the kind of old guard politics that holds women's basketball back from reaching its full potential. If this story made you as angry as it should, smash that like button and subscribe for more truth about what's really happening in sports. We're not afraid to call out the politics and corruption that the mainstream media won't touch. More explosive content coming your way soon.